What is up, everybody? Bootman here, and we are back with another Marvel Snap video. And in this video, I want to talk about why this card here in the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine season, this card right here might be the best card of the month. So we'll discuss it, all right? But before we get started, if you're new here, hi, my name's Chris. I also go by Bootman, and I usually go over different deck and card strategies to help you rank up the ladder and win in Conquest mode. So if you're into that, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell, all right? So some stuff's been going on today. I'm recording this late at night, posting it in the morning, but I've just been thinking, and I've been selling myself more on this card. If you listen to the recent podcast episode that Brad and I did, I wasn't totally sold. Like, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of cards I'm gonna, skip this month probably. And Copycat was probably one of them. Like, I kind of sold myself on it during our conversation, but the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more I discuss this with people on Twitter, I might be getting this card, all right? So let's discuss this. First, let's look at the schedule real quick. And I'm not gonna go too thoroughly in it because we talked about it in the podcast episode. Go check that out. First up, we have Hydra Bob. Same week as it's the first card of the season with the season pass card, and he 1/4 moves each turn if somebody snapped. I don't like that. I don't want it. It seems like, no, I just don't like it. Ajax, ongoing +1 power for each card in play afflicted with negative power. Could be decent, but I'm not sold on it. I'm gonna wait and watch and see if anybody can make them work, but I'm not totally sold. Copycat is the third card of the season. And then right here might be the best card of the season. Okay, so you got clickbaited a little. I do think, without a doubt, and somebody disagrees with me, I do think without a doubt, this gal right here will be the best card of the season, Cassandra Nova. Steal 1 power from each card in your opponent's deck. That's crazy. Like, think about it, people are still playing Arishem by the time Cassandra Nova comes out. Like, that's nuts. That is nuts. So I did see somebody bring up that Cassandra Nova might have synergy with Ajax because you're taking power away, so they're afflicted. So it's almost like scorpioning them or something like that. But anyways, Copycat. So Copycat, when you draw this, steal the text from the bottom card of your opponent's deck, okay? Something Brad and I discussed in the podcast was, like, not only is she stealing the text, but she's also giving you information about what they're not going to draw. And then, you know what? I'm not gonna discuss it because Lauren puts it together very well. So this is a thread that Lauren Whatevs put together. So first off, she rated her stuff and she was like, here's my rankings for the Deadpool season: Copycat, Gwenpool, Cassandra, Ajax, Bob. And I'm like, what? You have Cassandra at number 3? And I'm like, you might need to sell me on Copycat. I was mistaken. I thought Willow CCG, he's the one who was like super sold on Arishem that I mentioned in a previous video. I thought he wasn't sold on Copycat, but I may have misinterpreted what his data showed. All right, so anyways, here's Lauren's thread. So she says, all right, so here's my pitch on Copycat. She's easy to underrate for the same reason almost everybody underrated Loki. The thing is, people generally play good cards. Okay, keep this in mind. Keep this in mind, everybody. People generally play good cards, okay? Lock that into your brain. Okay, so she goes on to say, 3-5 is a good stat line. It is. It just is. 3-5 is good. 84% of the cards have an ability that's at least neutral, so she'll usually be playable. See Willow CCG's post. I'll try to remember to link both of these tweets down below. So Willow put this together, this graphic together. So if you look at it, feel free to pause, take a screenshot, whatever, okay? So he grouped these categories: disaster, almost never want to play; bad, a downside but manageable; none, effectively no effect; okay, upside but requires synergy; tech, strong but only situationally; good, would be played at 3-5 but nothing game breaking; incredible, absolutely broken on a 3-5. So when I replied to Willow, I was like, I need to watch the vid because I'm curious how you're classifying like disaster, right? Because he put like 36 disasters and like 19 none, 9 bad. So I would have to see the full breakdown because like that's a subjective, metric. So like, is his disaster worse than my disaster? You know what I mean? But anyways, this is a rough idea of at least okay cards, like 107 okay cards that you're gonna draw from. So yeah, Lauren goes on to say, she steals an ability when you draw her, so you're only going to play her when she's worth playing. So yeah, she steals the ability when she's in your hand. You do not have to play that card. You don't have to play it. but at least you have information about what your opponent's playing and what they won't draw. So he says you don't have to gamble like you would with cards like Zemo, Lad, or Cersei. Very true, right? Cersei, she's been out for a while. How many times do you have bad hits? Lad, like, so the reason I've been selling myself on this is because I've been debating with people online, right? Like people are like, oh, it could be a dead card. It could be a dead card. It might be a dead card. Like, like Iron Lad has been one of the most popular cards in and out of the meta for a long time now. And Iron Lad can hit dead cards. You know what I mean? Zemo could do terrible things too, right? And then it says, we need to consider the meta too. So this is something I'll dive more into in just a minute here. But look at all these. So at the time of recording this, for the last 30 days, here's the top cards. Here are the top cards right here. Let me know what card on this list you would not want Nocturne to, you wouldn't want Copycat to hit, right? Like, none of them are terrible. Like, none of them are terrible. These are the top cards, right? So, she just goes on like, notably unpopular cards are significantly less likely and more rare than the random 0.36%. She did some math in here, you can read it later. But yeah, anyway, she goes on, bonus synergies. So she talks about shuffling it. Like if you use like a Korg or a Rock Slide in your deck with Copycat, you're gonna shuffle the stuff around. So she steals the text. So if I'm understanding it correctly, she will, take it away. So it'll be a dead card for them, right? It'll just be stats. It's almost like you're zeroing their card, if I'm understanding this correctly, the steal aspect. But then here's something else that Lauren said that makes it like slightly worse than what I was thinking, but I still think might be decent. Data mines say your opponent will see what she copies. And that makes her a lot weaker. So true, if they see, then they know what card they're not drawing because it's at the bottom of their deck, right? But also they know what you have. And I think I replied to this, I'm like, oh dang, I didn't see that. Like Red Hulk, it makes sense that your opponent sees the card whenever it powers up. Copycat, I'm not getting it. So like Daniel Friedman, he makes some really good points just about Marvel Snap in general. And he says there's a 12 card deck. Excuse me, does this card deserve one of them? It is not synergistic piece of any win condition. It's not a tech counter to any specific threat. It's just a card with a highly variable ability that sometimes pops off, sometimes fizzles, and is usually okay. Like this is a great point. Like whenever a card comes out, you always have to think, do I want this card in here in replace of something else, right? Like there are opportunity costs. It is taking up a slot. You only have 12 cards. So it's a very good point, but I do think she's all right. Now, here's my big selling point, all right? So going back up, remember I said to remember this? The thing is, people generally play good cards. So I forgot to pull up Untapped, but yeah, here, check it out. Walk with me real quick. We'll hang out for a second. So if we go to the top decks right here, and usually you'll look at like Post Infinite or whatever, and let's like not look at Arishem decks. So Untapped, by the way, if you want to get Untapped, the deck tracker's free. Use my affiliate link down below. If you want all these fancy stats, you got to get their premium service. I don't think it's too expensive. But no Arishem and no Agatha. Boop. Okay, so like for example, this deck right here, this deck has been one of the top decks for a little while. Let me know, feel free to let me know in the comments, what card would you not want to hit? If your opponent was playing this against you, what card would you not want to hit? What card here would be a dead card, right? Maybe Mystique, you know what I mean? Maybe Ravonna. Like all of these other ones would be decent. Like Kitty, it's like meh, because it's gonna bounce back to your hand, and you gotta respend that energy. But anyways, like this is going to be decent. And the reason I took out Arishem is because it's putting so many cards in their deck, right? But yeah, like look at these. Like what if you copy, like look, Surfer's one of the top decks, you copy Brood, you copy Fastos, like I guess Killmonger can screw you over, but like, what? Like all of these, look at this. Like people play good cards. Like the reason I hopped onto this video to start discussing this is because somebody was saying that. They're like, oh, it could be just a dead card. I'm like, like people aren't just gonna be playing like non-high evolutionary Cyclops against you, like these no ability cards. Like what do you mean? Like, worst case scenario, you're playing against a destroy deck. But even still, you're getting information and you're killing their card, right? So let's say I am playing against a Phoenix Force deck and I steal their Venom, right? And they're playing like the Phoenix Force build with like Shuri and Nimrod and stuff like that. I just took out one of their ways, or I know they're not drawing one of their ways to blow up that Nimrod for a second time. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? So like, it's never like technically dead. Like, think about Cable. How frustrating is it for you to play against Cable, right? When somebody cables you, like, I know Cable is not like the most popular card or the best card, but man, don't you tell me that when someone plays Cable against you, you are not very frustrated. You have no idea what card they pulled, and A, is it gonna be good against you? And B, are you never going to see it? Is it never gonna come out of your deck, right? You just do not know if they don't play it, right? And that's pretty much what our girl Copycat's doing, okay? So the last thing I want to talk about is, and by the way, I'm not saying to get Copycat. I could be totally wrong. But the reason I wanna make this video too is just to get your wheels turning, because I saw somebody say, I'm gonna wait and see, you know, what like streamers and creators do with her before I get her. And that is like my number one piece of advice to everybody. Everybody's always asking like, oh shoot, should I get this card? Should I get this card? Like on the first day. Y'all, you have a week. You have an entire week to decide. If you were planning on using spotlights, you have a whole week. Don't rush it, wait a few days. But with this card, it's different, and here's why, okay? Because 99% of the time, I agree, wait, just check it out, get a feel for it, and then see if you wanna get it. Like Sasquatch, for example. I was dead set on getting Sasquatch, then I realized like, he's not as great as I thought he was, so I didn't get him. He is one of those top decks, but I made a video just like a week or two ago about how I substituted Sasquatch for Havoc. Deck did just as well, you know what I mean? So anyways, the reason this is different is because I think Copycat's going to be meta dependent, okay? And like, you have to decide how valuable that is for you, okay? Like, but I'll say something like, I'll say this, okay? I said this on Twitter and I'll tell you right now, I could be wrong. I could be 1,000% wrong about Copycat, but my track record shows I haven't been. I haven't been wrong. I can see cards that will be valuable. That's just what I do. Call it a gift. And I'm not just tooting my own horn. Let me tell you about this guy right here. I bought Shadow King for 6,000 tokens, okay? Y'all who are new here, I bought Shadow King when he first came out for 6,000 tokens. Everybody was talking about, oh, this is the worst card, this is the worst card. And don't get me wrong, he was released, I think at like a 3-3 or even like a 4-2. It was something like really weird. It might've been a 4-2 because it was during the Zabu season and they released like all 4 cost cards just because it synergized with Zabu. Anyways, I got him so quick. And here's why. Silver Surfer was the top deck. It was the top deck and like Silver Surfer used to give, I think, +3 to everything. And it drove me nuts. I used to play this deck called Magentress. It had a lot of tech cards, but I couldn't do anything to the other team because, or to the other side of the board because Shang-Chi didn't take him out, right? Enchantress didn't do anything on the final turn. And I love the turn 6, take him out. So when I saw Shadow King and what Shadow King did, I'm like, this is going to be a good card. Now, unfortunately, right around the time Shadow King came out, they nerfed Silver Surfer. So I bought this card, then he was useless for a long time. Now, like, when's the last time, let me know in the comments down below, when was the last time you heard somebody say Shadow King's a bad card? When was the last time? Like, those of you who are old school Marvel snappers, you were here last, like, when was it? It was like January, February of 2023, so last year. It was like real early, like Q1 of 2023 is when Shadow King came out. Everybody was saying this was the worst card. For months, it was the worst card. And again, it did go through some buffs, but his ability has been the same. And I knew it would eventually be valuable. And he's become very valuable with cards like, first off, he became just a staple if you wanted to tech against the Silky Smooth deck. It was a deck a lot of people were playing that had Silk, it had Craven, a lot of cards that gained power, right? Shadow King was a must. Now you have cards running rampant like Fina, Angela, things like that, Sage, right? Shadow King, nobody talks crap about my boy anymore. All right? Nobody talks crap about him. I can see these cards and when they'll be good. Next one up, Super Scroll. Super Scroll was also one of the first cards to release in the token shop. I did not get him when he first came out. I didn't find him as valuable, so I waited to actually pull him, and I ended up getting him for free. But anyways, Super Scroll, some of you might not know if you're newer to Marvel Snap, but Super Scroll for a while was a must-have, Like, people were putting him in all sorts of decks. There was a time when decks that were running Darkhawk and Devil Dinosaur were very, very good, and they were just all over the place. So you needed to put Super Scroll in your deck, right? And like, even now, sometimes people are using Super Scroll. Like a month or so ago, people were putting it in their Tribunal decks, just in case somebody did like US Agent, and they also had like a Luke Cage, then they can get that. But anyways, Super Scroll. What I'm getting at is, some cards are very meta dependent. Right now, there aren't a ton of ongoing cards out there that you need to copy. So Super Scroll, he's just sitting in this little place, right? If cards like Athena and stuff like that die down, you might not see Shadow King for a while. But what I'm getting at is, when there are decks out there that are running rampant where you're like, oh, okay, I might want to copy something, you're gonna wish you had Copycat. Because let me tell you about another card. This one right here. Like, I don't get it. Like, excuse me again. How can you say Copycat's bad when some of the top decks as of late have run Morph and it's been beneficial, right? Especially when like Hela was one of the top decks, when people are just running big cards, you're just like, oh, I'll throw down a little 3 cost that could turn into like an Infinite or something like that. You know, it's meta dependent. If people are playing something like, even Morph becomes good card. Morph is a freaking Series 1 card. So what I'm getting at is, like, again, look at the top decks. Look at this, okay? Like, people play good cards. That, there's just no ifs and buts about it. So yeah, I think I've sold myself on Copycat. If I had to rank them, Cassandra Nova, probably Copycat second. The other ones I'm probably gonna skip, Hydra Bob and Ajax. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm happy to debate and discuss this. But last thing I will say, one thing I did mention is, like, maybe you want to put 0 in your Copycat decks. Maybe that's just what you want to do. I don't know. Like, just in case it has like a terrible ability, because 3-5 is still a pretty decent stat line. You know what I mean? Let's see. Can we actually look at cards and go to their power? Does that let me do it? Or cost. We're gonna look at cost. So let's do that. So yeah, like, look at this. You have a few cards, like 3-5 is becoming the new one, but like Baron Zemo, Corvus Glaive, like, think about this. This card could screw you, this card could screw you. I'm comparing it to other 3-5s, right? Because the stat line is pretty decent. Deathlock, right? Might screw you, but if you draw her, like, just play around if you, but anyway, I'm not talking about cards you can copy. Like 3-5, like, how much worse is she than some of these other 3-5s, right? Like, Nocturne is probably like the best 3-5 stat line right now. You know, we do see some Polaris now and then, you know, you have Sabretooth, and yeah, like 3-5, she's one of the few cards that is a 3-5. Like, I guess I could have just done this, huh? Like, is she worse? Is she worse than any of these? Like, especially when she has such an upside, you know what I mean? Like, what if she like copies like a Red Hulk? If she copies an Iron Man, she's instantly a 310. You know? But anyways, this video is already longer than I was expecting, but I hope I've sold you a little bit on Copycat. Like I said, my track record shows I'm usually right about cards that I see being, you know, they might be meta dependent, you might not use it all the time, but I guarantee a meta is going to come around. That's the way I'll put it. A meta is gonna come around where you're gonna wish you had this card. You're gonna wish you had it. It might not be right when she releases. So you gotta, I think that's something everybody needs to think about. You need to say, okay, is this card just not good right now? You know what I mean? Because personally, like, I think this is probably the worst month Marvel Snap's had in a while, maybe next month. they've done pretty good at releasing good cards. But anyways, you gotta look ahead and say, will this card eventually be good, right? Like Hydra Bob. Like, when is that card ever, like, you know, do you ever see a meta where it's like, oh snap, Hydra Bob's gonna be just amazing, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. So anyways, that's all I got for this video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to debate about this, leave some comments, you know, we'll chat, we'll have a discussion. All right, so give this video a thumbs up. If you're new, subscribe, ring that notification bell. I'm gonna get back to making some like actual deck videos soon, but until then, have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.